Ladies and gentlemen, if you like to play Magic the Gathering, you're a dying breed. Final Fantasy proves that the market is shifting from a player's market to a collector's market, and in this video we're going to dive into how exactly we got to this place and what Final Fantasy means for the future of Magic the Gathering. Hey, thanks for stopping by. This is the Nerdy Attorney. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit that bell button, do all the things that let the algorithm know that you like this channel. It really helps a small channel like me out as we try and get this up and running. All right, let's dive in. Like I said, Magic the Gathering is catering towards and converting into a collector's market as opposed to a player's market. Let's first start with the Traveling Chocobo, the Borderless Neon Ink. This is a $2,200 card that, believe it or not, is actually selling at around those prices, $1,900, $2,800. These are insane prices for a card that, let's be honest, is not that good. It's not the One Ring good. It's good in some decks. It's good in bird, creature-focused decks. Look, you may look at the top card of your library at any time. Fun, lots of cards do that. You may play lands and cast Bird Spell from the top of your library. If a land or a bird you control entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. We love duplicative triggers. We love things that copy tokens. There's no question that Magic the Gathering players enjoy this kind of effect, but this is not the best card from the Final Fantasy set, but it is the most collectible. So let's look at the prices for the boxes themselves. Here, we see the collector booster box is stalling out at around that $1,170 point, and we can see there have been sales at that price point, some as low as $1,160, but really it's as near as makes no difference. These things are around $1,200 before shipping and tax, and they're still selling like hotcakes. So the important thing to note here, the thesis of this video is the collector market has been something Wizards of the Coast has been trying to capture in the same way Pokemon has captured it, where the most desirable cards are not the most powerful cards, simply the most collectible. Let's go back to one of the best cards in Magic the Gathering's history, Gaia's Cradle from Urza's Saga. This card, for a damaged version of, albeit a very old card, is $750. But you want to get a nice example of this card, you're going to be paying upwards of $1,000 for beautiful, even above $1,000 for beautiful examples of this incredibly powerful card. Gaia's Cradle, tap it, add a green mana to your mana pool for each creature you control. Obviously, with token doublers, with the way that Magic the Gathering has gone, there is a lot of creatures on board and creature-centric strategies, so this goes in many, many decks. But the reason why it's $750 for a damaged version is not just because it's an old card and it was in the rare slot, it's because it's incredibly powerful. This, in my estimation, is the reason why this card is an exemplar of the player's market meeting with collector's money. It's a very rarefied piece of cardboard to own because, yes, it was printed a while ago. A lot have been damaged over the time since its printing, but it is incredibly powerful. Now, we look at some of the more recent sets that have been trying to capture this idea of collectability. A quick aside, we're not going to be discussing serialized cards here. The pull rates are just too low for me to factor into this general trend. They are a symptom of what I'm talking about, but they're not the main thing. I think it's more important to look at the cards that we are actually pulling and people are utilizing. So let's move over to Foundations. A Foundations collector booster box is $286.42 right now. It still does have some buy-through, even at prices at $447. But look, this thing is selling fairly fast considering the excitement around Final Fantasy. The price has risen all the way up to $420, and some people are trying to capture sales at a lower $398 price point. Now, the reason why I chose Foundations is because, one, we know it won't be reprinted. They've told us that this is not a reprintable item, despite the Foundations Play Booster being an evergreen product. Look at the top most valuable card in the entire set, a Fracture Foil Llanowar Elves Showcase. Llanowar Elves is a ubiquitous Magic the Gathering card. Yes, it's very good, but it's also very cheap, just like Sol Ring. We have so many copies and iterations of Llanowar Elves. Take your pick. You can get any number of incredible cards for $5 or less, and some maybe break $10. But looking at this price, we can see that people are chasing this merely for the collectability of the anime version with anime girls of Llanowar Elves. Yes, it's a very rare pull. Yes, it's exciting to get it. But the power of this card is not why you're buying it. You're buying it because it's a collectible item and it's exciting to be able to show off to your friends like a collector would like to do. Now, the sales are a little bit sparse. They're a little few and far between, comparatively speaking, but we have seen a rise from back in March of this year at $650 up to around $1,000 in May of this year, with it back down to $750 in June. So the collectors are buying it slowly, but they're buying it nonetheless, and it still does command the lead for the most expensive card in the entire Foundation set. High to low pricing, it's Llanowar, then it's Doubling Season, a very powerful card, but again, a cheap card now based off of the reprints. Twin Flame Tyrant, another good card to play, but we're not buying it because it's good to play. You're buying it for the incredible treatment. Here's another great example. Let's look at one of the pushed mechanics that came out exclusively in Foundations. Bloodthirsty Conqueror is an amazing card that works in any deck that has black. It's just wild to see play out. And a lot of weird interactions happen when you actually play it. It's a ton of fun. But $350 for the Fracture Foil. Half or less than half what people are paying for Llanowar Elves just because it's collectible. So another example of the collectability being boosted, while you can get, in my opinion, a better treatment of it in the Mana Foil for just $67, still a very rare hit, but look, it's gone nowhere but down after it came out with a peak of around $73 when the excitement of the set came out. And in my estimation, this is a great price for an incredibly cool card and what I think to be a creative treatment with that embossed foil. $85 at its peak, it looks like, going down to around $75 per item. People still trying to get sales through that algorithmic TCG pricing at $67. So what this shows us is the Bloodthirsty Conqueror is an incredibly powerful card, but the players themselves can get other versions, even in special foil treatments, for $70, as opposed to the $600 plus people are paying for another Llanowar Elves. Now, let's look at the price impact of collectability on the boxes themselves. Here is Tarkir Dragonstorm, $314 for a box. We can see when it first came out, it plummeted to around $240, rose up to $387, and is stabilized at around the $320 mark with some slight upticks after the fact. Some people selling for as low as $314. With an individual seller, it seems like chicken and cardboard, just getting started. I wish you luck. But when you look at the price point of Tarkir and one of the best pulls from the set and the best treatment, we see a very similar price trajectory. It almost matches the box identically. It starts at $400, it goes all the way up to $530, and stabilizes at $462. Look at the box. It's nearly the same parabola that occurs here. We watch the trend do the exact same thing as the box. That makes sense to me. As the hits increase in value, the box should increase in value because you have a chance of getting those hits. And there was, again, a serialized card in Tarkir, but we're not focusing on that. Now, this diverges from what's happening in Final Fantasy. Let's get a quick refresher. Final Fantasy, the collector boxes went ballistic and have stayed ballistic, floating around $700 for a few weeks, and then boom. Suddenly a big buyout happens, we're at $1,100, and we've stuck around that point ever since for the past 2 weeks. Now look at the cards inside. The hits you can pull, not accounting for the serialized Chocobo. Some cards have maintained that very high price point, like the collector exclusive Ancient Copper Dragon Showcase from Through the Ages. You can only get this from the collector exclusive, so we see it drop a little bit, and then people realize, oh wait, we can only pull these from collector boxes back up to all-time high territory. But you look at other cards like Cloud, a borderless foil card that was very exciting when it came out. People realized you can open it in play boosters. I'm not going to pay the inflated collector booster box price, and it continues to drop with a low of $70 for this near mint foil gorgeous card. That does not match what's happening with the collector box. Keeps going up and up and up because it's a card that you can get outside of the collector's box. So when looking at what's happening with sought after cards, let's look at even borderless foil Sephiroth, $174 for this card. It dropped off like Cloud. It's still a hard pull, so it jumped back up to $274. And then look, collapses at $200. Still an absurdly expensive card for a very powerful mechanic. But still, that doesn't match the collector box. So the final thing we're going to do is look at some more collector exclusives to see if they've matched the price point. Here we are. Here's the borderless Surge foil of that same Cloud treatment, and it's at $349. A good price, it seems, but look at the price history. Off a cliff, tried to rally, it only made it halfway up to its all-time high and retracted all the way down to about $200 less than its all-time high at $350 as opposed to the $599 that it was at when it first came out. Now, if this is one of the big hits of the collector booster box, how come it looks so different from the collector booster box price trajectory? Look how tiny that little retraction was in the scale of this box. $100, maybe $94 in differential between the two prices. Then you look at the borderless Surge foil, that retraction was huge. We lost $200. We gained back around $100, and then boom, sitting at $200 of losses for one of the main chase cards of the set. So what my conclusion is with all of this said is that Magic the Gathering is shifting the market. It used to be that we would want to buy powerful cards for a high price because it made you a better Magic the Gathering player in the games and decks that want them. You have more power, more abilities. It's like leveling up in an MMORPG. Suddenly, you have new capabilities to get more mana than ever just because you make a lot of squirrels. But now, the money is flooding to things that are merely collectible, like the Llanowar Elves. It's just a cool treatment of a card that we all already have already. So, with that said, I think that Final Fantasy is indicative of a solidification of this change in market priority. The money's in collectibles, and guess what? Wizards of the Coast is going to chase that collectible money by leaning heavier into these kinds of products. Well, it means that the old price trends we used to look at for collector boxes and singles, it surges a little bit and then it levels off as excitement dies out, is not as reliable anymore. Even within Final Fantasy, you saw there are some collector exclusives that are still dropping in price despite the boxes continuing to rise. Is that the lottery ticket effect of the Golden Chocobo? Or is it that people are still believing that the product itself, the collector box itself, is carrying this rarefied cachet of collector's allure that's making people want to hold it like an investment as opposed to a playable item? There's always been the game piece army versus the people who want to collect. But now more than ever, I think there's a stratification in the market where play boosters are meant for players, collector boosters are meant for collectors. It seems obvious, I know, but there's still those same players who would love to have a cool treatment of a new mechanic that fits really well into one of their favorite decks they've been playing and working on for years and years. So there is a cross-section between that market that no one seems to give credit to. My conclusion of this video is, once we see what happens with Spider-Man, once we see what happens with Avatar, once we see more Universes Beyond sets, if these cards that are not the most powerful, most pushed in the set, continue to be the most sought after merely for collectability, we're seeing a clear divergence from people wanting to spend a lot of money on a Mana Crypt, a lot of money on an Anointed Procession, a lot of money on an Ancient Copper Dragon and its regular treatment just to play it, a divergence between that player incentivized market to the collector incentivized market. Where right now I think Wizards is still trying to straddle the line and they're leaning a little heavier into the collector side. If the sales of Final Fantasy are indicative of anything, if you watch this video 6 months from now, after Avatar, after we get through Spider-Man, there may be even more measures taken by Wizards to increase the collectability of their product. Whether that means further reduced print runs, more exclusive items in collector boxes, who knows what. But at the end of the day, if you like to just play Magic the Gathering, I think Wizards are going to start paying attention a lot more to the people who just like to collect Magic the Gathering. Now, ultimately, does that affect people who love to play the game? No. You can create little time capsules of Magic the Gathering history that don't include Universes Beyond products or mechanics and keep it pure and simple just like you liked it when you were playing it on your kitchen table 30 years ago. You can always find ways to meld this giant card pool into one that fits your nostalgia and your taste. But that does mean that the cool treatments that used to be a little bit more accessible just a year ago in collector boxes are going to be swept up and pulled away by the serialized nonsense and by these rare neon treatments that make people want to buy and hold these boxes, making them more scarce, increasing their price, and increasing their demand by the desirability of some of these now expensive treatments. So there will be something lost. It won't be a casual thing anymore to be able to open a couple collector packs and maybe pull a Galaxy Foil Shockland from Infinity. It's just not going to happen anymore. Prices are going to go way too high, way too fast, and suddenly your only option is maybe getting a borderless foil from a play booster, which has had, in my opinion, what feels like worse and worse pull rates than they did when they first came out. So at the end of the day, it's a shift in the market. It's a change in Magic the Gathering. And I think Final Fantasy solidifies that change and points Wizards of the Coast squarely in the direction of capturing collectors' wallets as opposed to making players their priority. Well, what do you think of this video? Take a look at my box openings here. I have 3 of them on the channel. See the hit rates. It's incredible that even when it's this expensive per box, you're not guaranteed to pull some fire. Although I did have a few really nice hits. This video here had a Buster Sword pull, and this video here had an incredible Ancient Copper Dragon foil hit. But thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment. Let me know below what your thoughts are on this change from a player's market to a collector's market and what that means for the kinds of cards we're targeting in collector boosters and for the future of Magic. Well, until next time, court's adjourned. Thanks again for watching.